What's up guys, Noah Sanford here. Just wrapped up with a day of guiding. Just dropped my customers off a few minutes ago, and as I was walking up the launch ramp to get my truck and trailer, I decided to turn around and come back down here to film this video for you guys, because there's really not a better day to film what I want to talk about today, and that's going to be how you can increase your success going out on nasty, windy, rainy, stormy days, whatever you got, overcast, wind, rain, how to increase your success in those kind of conditions. So I got down here this morning with my customers about 7 o'clock this morning. We decided to go ahead and end up postponing the trip until about 8 o'clock. We hung out down here for a little while to let that rain subside, because when we got down here at 7, the rain was so thick you could hardly even see a couple hundred yards out. It was almost like fog how much that rain was coming down. And so we decided to wait it out a little bit just so we weren't absolutely drenched. Even though I've still got my rain gear on, I still got the rain pants, I finally took the rain jacket off. We were all prepared for it. Even though we could have done it, we all know that it's not very fun, right? And so once we got out there at about 8 o'clock, we went from about 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and we probably caught a little over 30 bass today, okay? Mostly smallmouth, a couple largemouth, and we ended up getting a couple bonus stripers as well. Let's go ahead and talk about why I think that was the case today. I guarantee you guys, if I was to go out on a calm, bluebird sky, no wind day, nice and sunny, we probably would not have had the same amount of success as we did today. And let's go ahead and talk about why that is. So the first reason I think that fish really bite well in crappy, stormy, windy conditions is because there's more light refraction and there's less visibility in the water, okay? Not only can these fish not see as well because you got some overcast and it's not as sunny, but that little bit of light that is coming in, once you get all that surface chop and waves, it's gonna send shadows all over the place. They're not gonna be able to see as well. So not only are they gonna be less smart to your lure, but you can also get away with heavier line if you're on a clear water reservoir like we are here on Lake Mead. The second reason is gonna be because there's more noise, right? Obviously on a calm day, they're gonna be a lot more sensitive to the transducer pinging on the bottom for your electronics. They're gonna be more sensitive to your big motor, more sensitive to your trolling motor. Overall, they're just gonna be more spooked out. Whereas when you have a day like today, when there's a lot of wind, a lot of rain, all sorts of that stuff is going to create noise up on the surface. And so you can get away with getting closer to the fish and creating even more noise than you could on a calm day. A third reason is going to be because the bait gets pushed around, right? Obviously on a calm day, that bait, the bait fish and the crawdads, whatever they're feeding on your lake, typically they're not gonna be very strong creatures, meaning that on a calm day, they'll be able to move around freely where they want to, but on a day that's really windy, they're gonna get pushed around with the wind. Naturally, they're not going to be able to have as much mobility as they would on a calm day. And so that's really gonna bring me into my next point, is how to target these bass correctly. And that really ties in with the last thing I just talked about how that bait gets pushed around, right? These fish are mainly going to be on those main lake points and down the centers of those coves in the wind blown direction, okay? If you're fishing on the backside of a windy cove, even though it's gonna be more comfortable for you, the fish are gonna be on the front side of the windy cove where that wind is blowing into, staging on that spot, looking into the wind, waiting for your lure to go by. A good rule of thumb is that the crappier the conditions are for the fisherman, the better the bite is for the fish, for all the reasons we just talked about. Let's go ahead and talk about what kind of lures I like to throw in these kind of conditions. Now, the lure selection is going to be completely time of year dependent, depending on where you're at. It's also going to be the body of water you're on dependent as well, but a couple general lures that always seem to work for me, whether it's rain or shine, well, I guess not really, whether it's rain and windy, nasty conditions, right? And anytime throughout the year, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall, you're always gonna do well on finesse baits. So today with my customers, we caught most of our bass on either a small crawdad presentation or a small drop shot presentation. And that's because that's what the fish eat here, right? I had them throwing a little drop shot with a minnow on it because that's gonna imitate shad. I'm gonna drop a picture in here. I also had one of them throwing a little dark sleeper today as well. And you can see this little panfish here that one of the smallmouth spat up. It's pretty cool. And so I had him throwing a little dark sleeper swim bait today as well, because that's a good little bluegill presentation. Didn't end up getting anything on it though. Most of what we got was on either the little minnow presentation or the bottom like crawdad, creepy crawly presentation, right? And so, like I said, the lure selection is going to depend on your body of water, but you're typically going to get away with all of those things no matter where you're at, because all bass feed on little fish. They feed on little crawly things down on the bottom, right? Let's talk about, I'm going to kind of go back to my last point though, about how the worse the conditions are for you, the better the conditions are for the fish. As much as us as fishermen want to go hide in those steeper coves where we get away from the wind on windy days, you're better off almost 100% of the time to get out into the worst part of the lake weather-wise possible. Even though it sucks as a fisherman to go out and just stick your boat on that windy point, you might even be taking waves up over the bow. We did that a couple times today. Boat's completely soaked. It's gonna take like a week to dry this thing out with the waves that were coming over and the rain we were getting, but that's all right because we got on the fish. Anyways, like I was saying though, you want to make sure for the most part that you're fishing in the nastiest part of the lake. And like I said, it's not gonna be fun, but it's how you're gonna get those bites. Majority of the bites we got today were on main lake points where the wind was blowing into them, okay? You don't wanna be on the backside of that point. That's not where the fish is gonna be. The fish doesn't care that it's windy. It's not windy underwater, right? But what is going on underwater is a little bit of current wherever that wind is blowing towards. Those bass know that, they're not stupid, and they know that if they stage up on those areas where the bait and everything they're gonna be feeding on is blowing into, that's how they're going to successfully feed for the day. That's how you want to target them as fishermen. The last thing I want to say is it's important which way you're casting with the wind. Typically when I'm going to be fishing a wind-blown point or a wind-blown bank, I'm going to try to throw my lure into the wind and work it naturally with the way the wind and the current is going. Once again, it's not fun for us. We always want to cast with the wind. We don't want to cast against the wind, but if you think about it, if you're trying to work a little jerk bait or swim bait or drop shot or whatever you're doing, whatever you're imitating is going to be something small for the most part, and it's going to be something that realistically, if it was real, is not strong enough to swim into the waves and to swim into 20 or 30 mile an hour wind. That thing in real life is going to be going with the wind. So as much as it's not fun to throw into the wind, especially with a bait caster or a smaller bait, you have to do it if you want to produce the most amount of bites for yourself. And so hopefully that gives you guys a good overview of kind of what to look for on a day like today. And it feels like I'm starting to get a couple more raindrops right now. So we're probably going to wrap this up here in just a sec. But like I said, just to give you guys a quick recap, why the fish bite in the wind, for all the same reasons we were talking about, the light refraction, less visibility, there's more noise, there's, the bait gets pushed around. And how to target them, you want to make sure you're targeting those main lake points or the centers of those coves where the wind is blowing into it, throwing your bait into the wind and letting it come back with the wind naturally. That's the direction that those fish are going to stack up. It's the way you're going to get the most amount of bites. Appreciate you guys watching. If you have any other video suggestions, make sure to leave them down in the comments. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. My name's Noah Sanford. We'll see you guys out on the water.